Good evening. We're going to start off tonight with the January 7th meeting. Well, is there a Reverend Raspberry? Would you like to do, I'll have you do the prayer for us. Come on up. After the invocation, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Firstner, and then we'll have the roll call. Please stand.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather one more time in this great year of 2020. We just ask, Lord, in this upcoming year that you just be with us and guide us, God, and bring us into all truth. Lord, we just ask that you just give us a peace and comfort this year as we direct this city and guide everyone that's in this city into the proper direction in which they should go. And God, we just ask, Lord Jesus, that our thoughts be your thoughts and your will be our will, and that you guide us into the place in which you have all of us to go in brotherly love and peace and harmony. And so we ask that you just touch the hearts of this city, the leadership, that they guide us all into the right direction and give us the strength for this journey in this year. And that this year be the best year yet in the city of Ocoee for the members and constituents of this place. We ask that you just give us what we need, which is love and hope. And we ask, Lord, that you just be with us down through the years that you have been and that you're going to be with us in the years to come. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Brunson?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson?
Present.
Mayor Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Firstner?
Here.
Commissioner Oliver?
Here.
All right. Presentations, proclamations. We have none tonight. Staff report. I'll say the city manager is out sick. He's in the hospital. So our assistant city manager, Craig Shadrick, will be filling in tonight. You have any reports?
None at this time.
All right. All right, we're going to go to commissioners' announcements. Commissioner Brinson.
None at this time.
Commissioner Wilson.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Commissioner First.
Not at this time.
Commissioner Oliver.
Nothing at this time.
All right, I got a couple I need to read. All right, each year cities are asked to appoint a representative onto the Metro Plan, Rhode Island's Municipal Advisory Committee, MAC. Commissioner Firster is currently designated to represent the city on this committee. And if he would like to continue, we just need a motion for his reappointment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Motion
second
made by
it.
Commissioner Wilson. Here's a second.
I second it.
Second by Commissioner Brinson. Let's vote. Motion carries unanimously, so you're back on.
Thank you.
What do you want to be?
Thank you.
There's no declination.
The MLK, the Martin Luther King Parade is Monday, January the 20th, from 10 a.m. to 12, starting at Citrus Elementary School and ending at the West Oaks Mall with a post-parade celebration and keynote speaker that will take place in the food court inside the mall. The keynote speaker is Dr. Paul Ortiz, director and professor at the University of Florida. Citizens are invited to attend the City of Ocoee's State of the City report on Tuesday, February the 4th at 5:45 here in City Hall. A video will highlight the city's accomplishments of the last year and what's planned for 2020. All right, just a little in-house stuff. We usually have the public comments at the end of the meeting, but there's some here on the front, and if it's okay with the commissioners, we've got so many here tonight on some stuff, so we'll start with the public comments that has nothing to do with anything that's on the agenda. So if you're going to speak, it's 3 minutes. We'll do the timer, and we'll set the timer, and you start. And if you haven't filled out one of these, please do, or it's 6 months in prison. I mean, no. But six months, I mean, no, not really. Just fill one of these out. We have to have everybody's approval. All right, so, I'm gonna have to go, just give me a minute, we gotta go through them. This is item number 6. Okay, we'll start with, now, has everybody filled out one that wants to talk tonight before we get started? You're filling out one now? All right. Give it to, yeah.
No.
All right, we've got a packed house tonight, so I appreciate everybody showing up. We appreciate you being here. It'd be nice to have this crowd all the time. So, maybe not for the same purpose. So, all right. Okay, we'll start with Ms. Harris. Harris? 12 Channing Lane, Orlando. Cynthia, all right, 3 minutes.
Didn't realize you put me first on the list. I just turned in my card. It's good to see you, Mayor Johnson. I'm Cynthia Harris, 12 Channing Avenue, Orlando, 32811. I'm here to speak on Founders Day. What's troublesome about this Founders Day celebration that it occurs during the same time that July Perry was slain. It's amazing that when you look at history and how history is recorded, in the South, we're always praising the people who lost the Civil War. Some of the worst people that created a lot of atrocities in this area were in the South. And we're constantly reminded that in the South that things are not progressing as they should. And I'm hoping that by my being here, you will reconsider when you decide to have your Founders Day celebration, especially when such an atrocity occurred during this time in this beautiful city. One of the worst generals that this reminds me of is Lieutenant General John Bell. John Bell was a Confederate general who would attack just for any reason. He had no purpose, he had no action plan. But today we have had technology, we've had history, and history tells us to have an action plan, to do better. We are a multitude of different races and different cultures, and I think that it would be more beneficial if we work together instead of separate ourselves. What I notice in this room is a group of people who are passionate about Founders Day and their history. They're sitting on one side of the room. The people that are passionate about correcting history are sitting on the other side of the room. So in other words, since the 1965 Civil Rights Act, when we were supposed to be integrated, we're sitting in a room and we're still segregated amongst ourselves.
All right, all right.
But this is what I'm seeing. So I'm entitled to my opinion just like anyone else is entitled to theirs. Well, again, I stand corrected if I am incorrect. However, for us to come together, I think that you should reconsider when you do Founders Day. It's not a matter of doing it on November 2nd. You could do it any other day but November 2nd.
We're not doing it on November 2nd.
Okay, but the significance and the value of it is why I'm here.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Anthony Hodge. 122 West McKee, that's not a house. That's your house address, sir?
That's a church.
Church.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Anthony Hodge, and it's good to see you men and women today and to address this crowd. I'm here to speak on the July Perry and the Founders Day. I'm reminded on December the 3rd, there was a meeting here, which I happened to view it on video, and it was said that the mayor signed a proclamation that July Perry celebration would be the first week of November. And then it was discussed that day, that same meeting, that there would be Founders Day. And the question was asked by the commissioner here, how did you go about getting that on the calendar? And I'm reminded of one of the other commissioners saying that he tried to get something on the calendar and the commission voted and it was voted down. But somehow that Founders Day was placed on the calendar without having any votes. And so Commissioner Brinson was asking, what are the procedures? How do you go about getting certain things on the calendar? As I was watching that meeting, there was never an answer to that. And so I was hoping that maybe we could get an answer to that on tonight. And it's not that we are trying to eliminate Founders Day. It's just that we don't want it to interfere in a proclamation that had been signed in October 2018 by the mayor that the first week of November would be for July Perry. But what I want to know, and maybe some others would like to know, how did Founders Day get on the calendar without the commission voting on that? What procedure took place for that to happen in that manner, when other times that the commission voted on everything else that was supposed to be on the calendar, and if you voted it down, it wasn't there. But with this situation, it's there. How did it get there? Who voted on it? Who placed it there? What procedure took place to get it there at the same time that you signed a proclamation that July Perry would be celebrated that week of November? That's all I have.
All right, before you leave, just a couple of comments real quick. I did sign that proclamation, sir, and I helped with the diversity board write it. But you need to read all of it, sir. And if you read the bottom part, down at the very end, it will explain to you about November the 2nd. It's November the 2nd, and then it says, any fun public culture event held
Where are
by
you
the
reading
city.
from, Mayor?
The last paragraph. And I give out some tonight. I hope if you don't have one, get a proclamation and read it. So we brought this proclamation up a long time ago, the diversity board did, to bring this out. And I'm gonna let Kathleen Crown, Dr. Crown, talk to this, sir. The first thing is, if you read it all, and it'll tell you that it says it's celebrating November the 2nd week, but it says also that other things can happen. The Founders Day can be on November 6th and 7th.
So
I'll let you talk, so let me finish, okay? So that's what it says. The other part about the date part, we've always put it on our dates. We've always went over and put the dates down. Anybody in the city could go reserve any dates they want. You can go to the recreation department, sign up for anything you want, and that's what happened. But after that came out, we had a vote up here, and it was voted not to change. So that's how that happened.
So
All
when
right,
you,
now, your time's up, sir. Well, you got to speak, sir.
so when you said that
Sir?
anything could change, you were saying that at any time you can place whatever it is you would like to on the calendar?
No, sir.
At the last commission meeting, the commission voted for a process to get items on the calendar.
And what was that process?
The process now is that it comes before a vote of the city commission to put an
Now.
item on the calendar.
Now, but it
That's right.
wasn't back then.
That's
Now
right.
it is.
That's right.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the commission voted to have July Perry and Founders Day that same week?
It's not the same week.
I mean,
It's the week, Founder's Day is the week after, it's July 9th.
July the 6th and 7th.
6th
The
and
week
7th.
after, not the 31st and 1st, the week after.
I'm
That's-
sorry,
all right,
no,
time's
not
up.
July, I'm sorry,
Time's up.
November.
Time's up. Next up, Russell Drake. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. After each one talks, we're not gonna get into the discussion until after it's over. We'll get through it all of them, then we can go back and discuss it. Because I'm not gonna get in back and forth discussions of this till it's over. So, you got 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Ocoee Commission. Good afternoon, citizens of Ocoee and supporters of the commission. I come to address you in the same manner many do about the Founders Day overlapping the anniversary of the Ocoee Massacre. You see, 100 years ago, a tragedy happened right here. A tragedy. This community has worked to get over it in over a century, and I think you've done reasonably good. Right now, you have some citizens who are fractured and concerned. Here we are, it's 2020. We're a fifth of the way through the century. 100 years ago, no woman in this room could even vote in the country. Until 2 years ago, you didn't have a person of color that sat on this commission. And moving forward, this community is asking you about celebrating, about acknowledging what happened 100 years ago on a separate time as you from your founder's celebration. It's to my understanding that you were founded in the month of May. So I beg to question why, if you were founded in the month of May, why would Founders Day even overlap in November when they're celebrating the anniversary? That's just food for thought. Also, I observed something at the last meeting. It went viral, a video where I think there was a misquote from the Reverend Martin Luther King and Rodney King.
That could be true.
And while it was a misquote, I mean, it is interesting. Rodney King did say, "Can't we all just get along?" After he was getting beaten by the Los Angeles Police Department half to death. And that went viral, and you had a lot of things that came out of that. But what Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. said, he said a couple of things, right? He said, there comes a time when people get tired of being pushed out of the glittering sunlight of life's July and left standing amid the piercing chill of an alpine November. He further said that every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. He further said, if y'all give me a little more time, that shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. He also goes on to say that all labor that uplifts humanity has dignity and importance and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence. I think this board has good conscience and good sense, and these people in the community all care about one another. I ask you to consider, for the good of the community, for the good of the city of Ocoee, for the good of Central Florida and the whole state, that you change the date of your Founders Day celebration and let the persons in Ocoee all gather together and look at what happened 100 years ago and how you move forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, Kathleen Crown.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Kathleen Crown. I'm the chairperson again of the Human Relations Diversity Board. Oh, you thought you got rid of me? I'm back. We worked for years, and I literally mean years, in planning for the 2020 event to basically have a funeral ceremony for July Perry and all the other folks that we will never know how many people were killed in the voting massacre that occurred. It was a horrible event. No one here alive was part of it, thank goodness, because I can't imagine having that conversation with anyone. As we move forward, we have numerous plans for the event in November of this year. It is the weekend before Founder's Day. Now, in a perfect world, personally, I would love that this music festival was called the Ocoee Music Festival. That would make me very happy. It's not up to me. I do not sit on the commission. I am not the mayor. That's not what I do. But I do know that we have worked very, very hard to take everyone's opinions into consideration as we go forward and plan for this funeral, so to speak. Now, as far as changing the date, the Human Relations Diversity Board has nothing to do with that. Our proclamation we wrote, I remember I wrote the first draft and it got changed around and lots of people added, lots of people took away, and it went from there. And that was a year and a half ago almost. So it's been a long time. Last month, the commission voted to not change the date of Founder's Day. I don't know why it's called Founder's Day. I can't find that research. And Major Maxwell, who sits on the Human Relations Diversity Board with me and is the chairperson of the subcommittee for the voting massacre event. We've both probably got stacks of paper, of research this deep. And so we're pretty knowledgeable of what happened from what we can gather from all the different things. And that if you do come to I'm gonna do a little aside for Martin Luther King Day, when we have the event after the parade, Dr. Paul Ortiz is gonna speak, and he wrote a book. He's written a few books, but one of them was written about the Ocoee massacre and what led up to it and all the horrific things that were happening in Florida, and then became a culmination on that dreadful day almost 100 years ago. So you'll want to hear him speak. He's dynamic, he's wonderful, and it'll be a great thing. But as far as the proclamation goes, we're on 2 different weekends. We can debate semantics. The board voted last month not to change the date. I wish that we could all, if you don't want to go to the Founder's Day, to the music festival, don't go. I went a couple times. I'm not really into country music, but I'll go every once in a while. But please come to our July Perry Day. Thank you.
Thank you. One other thing I'll say, that we always say it, don't always work, but everybody gonna say the same thing when you get up there, so it'll take a while. So if you think they've said what you need to say, then let's move along. If not, then we'll keep going till everybody talks. All right. Kenneth Thompson. Kenneth Thompson.
Good evening, Mayor, to commissioners, and to our community at large. Retired military man of 22 years. Retired. I was a first sergeant as an E7.
Sir, could you speak into the microphone? I'm
I
sorry,
was a
can't
first
hear you.
sergeant as an E7. I dedicated my life for the rights that we are now discussing. One of them, the right to vote. I'm here because my family was denied that right. I'm one of the descendants, the Carmichael family. Our place was burned down. There was theft of our property. Some of our members were brutally dismembered. And it's painful. This is a test of our will to love, have compassion, and reconciliation for this entire community. I went into every silo in NATO. I was signaled. I had the responsibility to make sure before he pressed that button for nuclear attack, he could talk to somebody and get the authority. I had a sensitive job. I never dreamed, after 5 continents and 15 countries, I never dreamed that I would be right back where I started from, Ocoee. I'm a resident of this city, passionate resident of this city, participating representative of this city. I love this city. I love the people in this city. There's no odds. They asked me for an interview with Orlando Sentinel during the first celebration. Mayor Vandergrift, I helped him with his election. Rich history. My wife was a lottery winner. If you remember way back in the early 90s, there was about 12 ladies in the beauty salon. They hit. My God. They shared about 12 million. And at that time, they asked me to speak in how many minutes I got there?
You're down to 5 seconds.
5 seconds. Anyway, please, I ask you to reconsider.
Thanks, sir.
Reconsider,
Thank you.
please.
All right, Cheryl Applegate.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Applegate. I live at 504 Spring Creek Drive, Ocoee, Florida. I am a lifelong resident of Ocoee, and I would like to say Founders Day was started by the early settler families of Ocoee. At the time they decided to have Founders Day, that's what they named it, because of the founding fathers of Ocoee. And that's starting back with Captain Bluford. I could go on and on and on, but the first time we ever had it was in May. Then we had it in June. Then we had it in October. But then once we started getting bands in, we had to schedule where we could get the bands to come in, and it seems like November is when they all can come and participate in our Founders Day. But when we started Founders Day, I was on the committee way back when, and the people that started it were settling families of Ocoee. And the early settlers, being my family, the Miners, the Hawthorns, the McGuires, and all these people, we had memorabilia of early settlers in Ocoee at the Women's Club of Ocoee. That's how this started. They had tours of all the historical places in Ocoee. We didn't have any crafts and stuff, but we had a lot of the older gentlemen telling stories about growing up in Ocoee. But that's what Founders Day was named for. The people that started Founders Day came upon that name because of the early settlers of Ocoee. That's all I have to say, and what is going on now has nothing to do with why Founders Day is named Founders Day, only because the first committee that started it were early settler families in Ocoee. That's the way it started. There's a lot going on now because we have bands, we have crafts, but the start of it was put on by the early families in Ocoee. And that's all I'm going to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Barbra Bay. Orlando. I'm gonna start saying where they're from too. See, we have a lot of Orlando. Got 3 minutes. Have to get up there. Hey.
Does she want that microphone right there? The one mic. Okay.
Honorable Mayor Rusty Johnson and Commissioners, others on the dais, members of the audience, good evening and Happy New Year. My name is Barbra Bay. I am the first grandchild of the Reverend John Sims and his wife, Mrs. Pearl Sims, who was killed in the Ocoee massacre, November 1920. I'm a social scientist by education and training. I'm also a minister of the gospel by call and training. I serve as an associate to the Reverend Leroy Rose III, the senior pastor of the New Covenant Baptist Church of Orlando. I believed that when the city council members signed the proclamation of November 20, 2018, that your signature represented honor, truth, and the integrity of this body. The proclamation reads in the seventh whereas as follows: the city believes that remembering and honoring those individuals who were killed, injured, and driven from their homes and had their property taken from them is a core requirement for ensuring that such acts do not happen again. I want to continue to believe that you want to honor them, but I see an overlap between honoring my ancestors and this Founders Day. James Coffin wrote a commentary in the Orlando Sentinel on Sunday the 5th. Title has the truth-telling turned into a relic of a bygone era. I certainly hope not. The memorial celebration of the Ocoee Massacre, in my opinion, should have a week-long period of honor, a time in the month of November where there's no nearness to that date of the Founders Day. To honor the sacrifice of my grandparents, John and Pearl Sims, the Founders Day celebration should not overlap the memorial programming of the Ocoee Massacre. The blood of my grandparents that run through my body cries out from their graves for their story to be front and center without any overlap of the Founders Day celebration. As I shared with you the last time I spoke before this body, I believe with every fiber in my being that my grandparents, July Perry and others, are the true founders of the Ocoee settlement. According to an article in Orlando Sentinel, one of your Founders Day honorees was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. And there's more that I could say, but I'm glad that the lady shared with us her feelings about Founders Day, but we have feelings about Founders Day too, because our ancestors were murdered.
All right, Bill William E. Maxwell. Three minutes, Bill.
Talk fast.
It's what I have to live with every day. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is William Maxwell. I live at 558 Woodson Avenue, and I'm a resident of Ocoee for the past 25 years. 13 of those years have been dedicated towards discovering truth and seeking a path that acknowledges, that honors, that tells the story, seeking to heal the wound that was inflicted upon the African American population at that time in such a manner as that it would enhance the economic forward movement of this city. I'm not going to get into the rhetorical aspects of trying to give you a long, drawn-out eulogy of what the plans are. I'm going to simply lay it out to you as I have lived it, as I have breathed it, as my family has endured me doing it. Now, there seem to be some misconceptions in terms of the meaning of what is written in the proclamation. And for anyone who doesn't have a copy of the proclamation, I will gladly provide you with a copy. But to follow on to that, I believe that what one does speaks so loudly you can't hear anything they say. Mine is 13 years of devotion to telling that story, and on 1 November this year, we intend to tell that story in the most honorable manner that I know how to do so. And I heard someone talk about having been to a lot of countries and done a lot of things. Well, I won't try to even talk about that. I live in Ocoee. I reared a 23-year-old who lives in Ocoee, and I love Ocoee. I do what I do because I love and care for Ocoee. This is the portrayal of the program that, God willing, I will execute for you in a fashion you haven't seen before on 1 November and on 31 October. This will tell the story. This will be a two-part ceremony. We'll have a eulogy and we'll have an unveiling ceremony. And I seek assistance from any one of you in the audience who wishes to take a part in this program and become a part of doing rather than about talking. My phone number is 407-694-5905. Call me.
Past chairman of the diversity board, Mandy Sellers.
Hi, Mayor and commissioners and people. I came for one reason, and it was only because I become a resident here 14 years ago when I married Steve, and we had a little boy. His name was Will. And prior to that, Steve always brought his boys here and enjoyed Founder's Day. Upon that, we lost Willie. We know what death is all about. We lost our 11-year-old son to a Naegleria amoeba. After that, Ocoee's Founder's Day became something else. It became family. I am fourth generation Cherokee Indian. I came here to speak on behalf of Will, honest to goodness. And standing back there, I sensed such heartache. And God tells us in the Bible to forget those things and to remember the things. Look forward. We can't get Will back any more than anybody can get any loved one back. But what we can do as a citizen, as a community, is build on love. And God says to love one another. It doesn't matter what your color is. It does not matter where you come from. I am fourth generation Cherokee Indian, North Carolina, that was never allowed to tell anybody we were Indian. So I know what it's like. But let me tell you something. I know what it's like to love. I know what it's like to forgive, and trust me, I know what it's like to move on. I thank God for this city. I thank God for this community, and I thank God for everybody that's ever rallied around Steve and I over the loss of a little boy who died doing something he loved. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Chambers.
Good evening, everybody. Bill Chambers, 314 East Geneva Street. First of all, I'd like to say that when the massacre took place, Ocoee was not a city. It was unincorporated. That's the first thing. Second thing I'd like to point out is that July Perry was not killed in Ocoee. He was arrested in Ocoee and hanged in Orlando by people from Ocoee, Orlando, Lakeland, and Daytona Beach. So not just the people of Ocoee. The incident, the massacre, yes, it occurred here, but July Perry was not slain, as that lady said. He was hanged in Orlando. I'd like to also point out that Afro-Americans were not the only ones that were killed during that period of time. I've lived here since 1976, and I've seen a huge difference in the city. I coached football and baseball at Ocoee Junior High, and I can remember nights that I coached baseball up at Senior League Field, and I couldn't get the Afro-American kids to come to the game. I had 3 of them on my team. They were afraid to come in the city after dark. So there's been a huge change in the last 40-some years. I would like to also comment that what happened in Ocoee, what happened in Los Angeles, that has nothing to do with the city of Ocoee. Those are different people, different times. And the last thing, I don't know if this has to do with Founders Day, but I've been on Facebook, and I take offense to people who said Mr. Maxwell sold out. I take offense to people who wrote on Facebook that Mayor Johnson and Commissioner Wilson are racist. I take offense to those people that make those comments. I've known Mayor Johnson for 40 years, and there's not a racist bone in his body. And anybody that thinks that way, you're very mistaken. I'm a proud citizen of the city of Ocoee. I understand people concerned with Founders Day. As far as I'm concerned, I think they need to continue it. I don't think it's a slam on anybody or any race. Thank you.
Chris Atkins.
Good afternoon, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and everyone in the audience. I live at 606 Ridgefield Avenue here in Ocoee, Florida. I've lived there for 20 years. I bought my home to raise a family here. I've enjoyed this community for all 20 years. I volunteer in our community. My wife volunteers in our community, and I love our community. At the end of the day, I don't see color. I don't see religion. I don't care who you love. At the end of the day, we are all people. At the end of the day, I see a chance for Ocoee to make an example, right? Whether it's in Ocoee, whether it's in Orange County, whether it's in Florida, whether it's across the country. We all agonize over this all the time. Rightfully so. I know July Perry's talked about a lot, but a lot more people than July Perry died that day. From what I understand about July Perry, he was a leader. And the people that he led need to be remembered as well. His name gets brought up a lot, but they admired him in their community. At the end of the day, we can't go back and forth. We have to come up with compromise. We have to come up with answers. I put for the record to Rosemary, I didn't think I could make it. I got here late because of work. But I believe that the city of Ocoee should have a day of mourning based upon Bill Maxwell and the years of work he's done on November 1st. I think we should take a moment of silence to remember those who passed. I think that same night, the city should be able to allow Mr. Maxwell and the Diversity Board to use the park free of charge, to have a candlelight vigil, and to be able to get together every year, not just this year we keep talking about. At the end of the day, we must acknowledge the things we've done wrong, right? But at the end of the day, we have to grow from it. Founders Day, Founders Day, Founders Day. I have never once seen any kind of racist activity done at Founders Day. I've seen people of all colors celebrate Founders Day, of all ages. So I understand that that is a day that hurts some people. So it's a simple name change, right? Let's make it the Ocoee Music Festival. We talk about the first week or first weekend of this or that. Let's come together. How about this? Let's make a compromise. Let's let the first weekend of November be dedicated to the celebration of those individuals. They can mourn on November 1st, and we can celebrate thereafter. And how about the weekend prior? We have the Ocoee Music Festival. How about we have 2 weekends of festivals, right? Why don't we call it the Ocoee Music Festival? leave the infrastructure in place that we've already paid for, allow a celebration one weekend, let us mourn one day, and then celebrate where we've come the following weekend. What about that? Huh? Thank you, Mayor.
Just a quick comment about the,
Chris.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
no, just a quick comment. The diversity board has made it known every year they will have an open house for the July Perry deal we were going to try to win the Women's Club, or we'll do it at the Lakeshore Center. But every year, it's already been brought up at the diversity board. Chairman Crown can tell you that. I'm on that board also, and they can tell you that we've already discussed having it every year. We also had it at Founder's Day last year. We got up on the stage and told everybody about it. We also had a booth where everybody could understand what was going on with that. So just, let's make that clear. Paul Swartz.
Mayor, I'm gonna pass.
Huh? Okay, all right, thank you. Lloyd Hollingsworth.
I'm gonna be quick. How you doing, Mayor? Commissioners? I've been an Ocoee resident for 43 years. Founder's Day has been part of my life, part of my heritage. My good ocean instructor over there too, thank you for the prayer. I think that what we need to do is, first of all, we all need to put something that happened 100 years ago. It needs to be in your forethought, it needs to be in your prayers. My family had nothing to do with it. As many of the people in here have nothing to do with it as well. If you look back 100 years ago, it's 36,500 days, if my math is right. If you looked at each day, something terrible happened in the United States or abroad that represents that day for some reason or the other. So, just so happens where you got one thing happening with another, I get it. But, you know, we're moving forward to change the world as we go now. But let's don't keep bringing things back and reliving. I can't go back 100 years. I can't go back 200 years when it all started way back in the day. I have no control over that. My family has no control over that. If I cut, I bleed red. If you cut, you bleed red. We're all humans. We just need to get along. It's just a stupid little festival that we all like to go to. Unfortunately, it happened on a bad day. So who's right? Celebrate something that unfortunately happened that we can't change, or celebrate life as we go forward? Bill said he has something going on November the 1st. Let him do what he needs to do. We don't care what happens. We don't care what happens, you know, from things that happened way back. You do remember it, but you can't control it. So I'm easy. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wes Hodge, Orlando.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Wes Hodge. I am the chairman of the Democratic Party for Orange County. I have volunteered thousands of hours of my time to make Orange County, Ocoee, Central Florida a better place for all of us to live. I'm here today because the city of Ocoee is at a crossroads. The city council must veer away from celebrating Founder's Day. Founders, which are individuals who not only betrayed our federal government, but fought to uphold an economy based upon slavery based on people because of the color of their skin. Ocoee has failed to acknowledge the terror that occurred here nearly 100 years ago until 2018. That's 98 years too late.
Not true.
Please allow me to speak. Thank you. The lack of empathy towards the black residents of Ocoee can be summed up best by last month's meetings when the words of Rodney King were wrongfully attributed to Martin Luther King. The ignorance was only amplified when the two were dismissively lumped together as one of those kings. We have an opportunity to turn the page here in Ocoee and start a new and honorable tradition Don't honor the founders of Ocoee, the trash of society which embraced segregation and enslavement and the lynching of Ocoee's black residents. Rather, let us honor the true Americans, true patriots who gave their lives to exercise the simple fundamental of being Americans, the right to vote. Let the names of Ocoee's founders be relegated to textbooks of history, and let's lift up the names of Mose Norman, July Perry, Estelle Perry, Maggie Genlack, Roosevelt Barton, Hattie Smith, the Sims family. Let us lift up the memories of those whose names we will never know because they died simply for desiring the right to vote. Please let's show Orange County that Ocoee is a modern community, one that could acknowledge their painful past while turning the page and embracing a future where we can move together, honoring patriotic Americans who gave their lives simply because they wanted to vote. Thank you.
I'll make a quick comment now we're done. You can quit clapping. Wes Hodge, Mr. Hodge, we're nonpartisan. I'd appreciate it. We don't deal with either one, Republicans or Democrats. We're all sitting up here as nonpartisan participants, and that's what you should have just said your name. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
sit down, sir. I'm not going to argue with you. Just sit down.
I will own my title just as much as
I'm glad you do. I'm glad you do. Michael Dinkle. This is citizens of Ocoee, and we're not either way.
Good evening. I think most of what I was going to say is covered, but I did go back and get a copy of the proclamation, and I looked at it, and it says here that November 2nd shall be declared a day of remembrance. And then it goes on to say, and if there's any future public cultural events held by the city during the first week of November shall be acknowledged at a turbo event of November 1920. I know at Ocoee's Founders Day there was a booth set up in the market that was very well laid out and had lots of information. In the event is doing, for what I think the most part everybody here tonight is to talk about, which is bringing a community together. And I don't think, from what I've heard so far, anybody in here is against having a music festival. It sounds like the name may be an issue. Based on the proclamation, if it's the 6th, 7th, 9th, 10th, I don't think that seems to be the issue, is as if it seems to be right around November 2nd. But for the most part, it appears that everybody is united in at least the events of what happens that they've called Founders Day, the music festival. Everybody seems to be united. Thanks.
Thanks. All right. All right, that's all the forms I have. Anybody else? Nobody else? All right. All right. Good job, everybody. Everybody got to talk, so that's good. One good thing about America, whether you be a Democrat or a Republican or independent, you get to say your piece. So that's what it's all about. All right. Now, that has been voted on. But if a commissioner wants to bring it up again, we'll bring it up again, but it has been voted on.
All right, Mayor. Okay. Well, based on what I've heard tonight, there is some a consistency in as far as the community moving forward together. I'm hearing that from everyone that came up to speak, that there is consensus that we would like to come together as one community, and I truly believe that. So I do have a statement that I want to read. I'm also going to make a motion, but I want you to bear with me here and listen to what I'm about to say.
3 minutes.
Oh, I get 3
minutes. Each one of us going to
All
do
right.
like the rest.
Well, I'll say this. I have openly supported Founders Day for many years and personally enjoyed the event myself. I have promoted Founders Day during my last two town hall meetings, September 2018 as well as September 2019. I'm personally a fan of country music and many country artists such as Chris Stapleton, who happens to be my ringtone, Blake Shelton, Adam Levine, and most recently, Big and Rich. However, I'm partial to the old school country artists such as Garth Brooks, Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, and Reba McEntire. Please, please make no mistake about it, I have never supported getting rid of Founders Day. The only thing I've ever asked was transparency in spending. So my motion reads as this. Based on the many phone calls, emails, testimonials from various citizens I have heard from over the past month, I humbly submit this motion to move for the removal of Founders Day from the first week in November 2020, henceforth and forevermore, in keeping with the proclamation that was resolved by this honorable commission and signed by the mayor November 20th, 2018, which states, any public cultural event held by the city during the first week of November should acknowledge the terrible events of November 1920. One of the more popular definitions of culture is a way of life for a group of people. Their behaviors, beliefs, values, systems that we accept generally without thinking about them and that are passed along from one generation to the next. Simply put, culture is a symbolic communication. According to the U.S. standards, a calendar week starts on Sunday and ends on Saturday. In this case, Sunday, November 1st starts the week and Saturday, November 7th ends the week. Therefore, Founders Day and the 100-year centennial celebration seems to be a direct cultural conflict, not only by culture, but also by date. The surviving families of the Ocoee massacre and many others are humbly asking the commission to stand by our, as a Me Too, word and allow them, along with others, many others, to observe the centennial memorial celebration of the Ocoee massacre from November 1st through November 7th. So therefore, I repeat the motion to move for the removal of Founders Day from the first week in November 2020, henceforth and forevermore, in keeping with the proclamation that was resolved by this honorable commission and signed by the mayor November 20th, 2018.
All right, I need a second, and then I'll discuss.
I'll second it.
Okay. I need a second. You second? Commissioner Brinson. All right. We've got a second, then a motion. A couple of comments. Transparency. Transparency means both sides. Coming together means both sides. If you're going to do it both ways. It can't be one way. That's the problem with a lot of people nowadays. You're pushing to get things one way. And it's just like us. Last year, they wanted it moved from November 2nd, which we've had, I've been involved in the last 25 years, I guess. We've had it on November the 2nd, we've had it on October the 28th, it's been on, in 26 years, it has been on November the 2nd, 2 times. 2 times. And that's before all this come about. Nobody ever said anything about it. So coming together means a community. I sent out, my wife did. My wife don't get too involved too much, but she will when she has to. She sent out a Facebook, because there's some other Facebook things that's been going out. And I'm not going to bring them up tonight because I said I wouldn't. But there's some other Facebook things that's been put out against people that shouldn't be put out. And you try to make your side by saying these things, and that's not the way to do it. If you're going to be a kind person or a person that loves people, why would you do that kind of stuff? And make those comments. And don't say that about sitting on sides. Everybody naturally does that. I've stood here for months now and watched these people that come to be with this side over here with Commissioner Oliver, and they sit at the same place. So it's all the same. We're all human beings. We all do what's natural and what comes about. But I am tired of being said, and I'm not going to argue, I'm not going to holler, but I like Commissioner Charlotte. I got 3 minutes too. Go both ways. We changed it. The date is November the 6th and 7th. Commissioner Wilson's citizens are sitting in this audience tonight. Commissioner Fershner, I don't know if he's got any here, but there's citizens from all over this town, and a lot of these people are from Orlando. You bought in, and they're on their Facebook. 4,000 people answered that Facebook page. in one day. 4,000 people. Now, folks, we can change the name Founders Day. If that's the big gig, we can change Founders Day. I don't care. When I took it over, it was Founders Day. What I'm doing is, I have loved this city since 1955. I am going to put forward this thing as long as I'm doing it. We raise the money. It ain't costing nobody. We're going to raise the money. We pay the money back to the city, whatever it costs. It's got to be something that citizens cannot afford to go do. We allow them to do it. We go chase down the money for people to come to this. Mr. Dinkle's a sponsor. I think he gave me, what, $20,000 last year. Cisco's a sponsor. The hospital's a sponsor. Ocoee City Center is going in out here. They give us $60,000. It has nothing to do with anybody. We had Jimmy Allen here, was an African-American country music singer. Tony Jackson was an African-American music singer. But we've had other kind of entertainment. I had the Commodores, I had the Temptations. I've had them all here. But let me tell you something. People enjoy coming and listening to music because my wife signed me up to go see George Strait. It cost me $800 for 2 tickets. So I can't afford that kind of stuff. We're a lot different when kids are grown. But I'm telling you, this is for a benefit of citizens to enjoy it. And people go online and try to make it out as some kind of devilish thing. It is not. It's just where people of all kind of people can enjoy it. So I'm not for changing it. I'm telling you, November 6th and 7th. I changed it last year. I got called I'm out playing golf. I got called by Congressman Dimmons 3 times that day while I was playing golf. 3 times. And went over it with her, and we agreed to do it. And I said, okay, I'll move it. So what happens? They picket it anyway. So they come picket it because we moved it away from that day. So you guys sitting up here and Mr. Oliver, Mr. Brinson, y'all came to it. You like it. I know you like it. We're going to keep. As long as I'm involved in it, and I'm in office for 3 more years, and I'm going to try 1 more. But I'm telling you, this thing is for people, and that all comes down to me. It's people in Ocoee. And you're wrong, sir, about 2018. This city has been working towards rectifying this since Lester Dabbs came here. Lester Dabbs was one of the most righteous men. And if you don't know Lester Dabbs, you should look him up and read. He wrote the first articles about this massacre. And everybody, you live with your family, and it's less like my family. I sit and hear different things from my kids, my grandkids, and I know you've heard the same thing through your families over the years. From somebody come here one day said there's 120 people buried at Stark Lake. I said, go get the bones. Prove it to me. You can hear all kind of stuff. There's people get killed every day, and it's a sad thing to be in it. But I'm for people. I served just like Sergeant said. I served in Vietnam. I served with black gentleman that was one of my best friends. I'd have trusted him in. I did trust him. He was behind me all the time. Bill Maxwell got downgraded because, and I won't say why, and everybody here knows why, but that man right there is one of the top-notch guys around. We get tired of hearing him talk. I'm going to stop and if you want to vote, commissioners want to vote, we got a motion on the board, and we got a second. But I would ask commissioners, remember, this says exactly what we're doing. This thing says we're doing what we said we'd do. So, all right.
Before we vote, if I may comment.
Yes, sir.
I think a lot of people are mixing up apples and oranges here. Some people are talking about getting rid of Founders Day, while other people are talking about changing the name, while other people are talking about changing the date. I think what we're really talking about here is the date. Because all over this nation, probably all over the globe, there's a Founders Day somewhere. If you're a member of any fraternity or sorority, you also have a Founders Day. So Founders Day in and of itself for the city of Ocoee may or may not be a good thing because, truth be told, how many minorities were part of that founding fathers, if you will, who created this Founders Day? I suspect not very many, if none. But that's not my issue. My issue is we signed a proclamation. The proclamation was signed by the city of Ocoee. And in that proclamation, we said that we will give remembrance to what happened in 1920. I don't think we should get rid of Founders Day. I personally, just like probably everybody up here, love country music. I too have ringtones for country music because I like country music, because they tell a story. I like storytelling. So let me tell you a story. The things that we have to do up here on this dais is make tough decisions. My decisions that I got to make every single day should not be based on my emotions. It should be based on what I give to you, and which should be my best effort. It doesn't make a difference. I've been in this city for 2 years. I've been in the city for 32 years. I'm up here trying to do the best I can, making the best decision for the best thing for Ocoee moving forward. There are people in this town right now that I've talked to who does not want to even recognize 1920, who were founding families, were founding members of the society, who do not want to have any remembrance of the Ocoee massacre because they say that's in the past. When unfortunately, much of black folks' past is not in your history books. So we have to fight every single day for these things. Me, now, for those who know me, you know I'm a straight shooter. I talk straight. I have many different colors of friends. I don't have one group of friends. And my sister will tell you, she said, oh, you're going to see your mafia friends when you come home. Well, absolutely, because they're my friends. I'm not colorblind, because people who say they're colorblind are truly fooling themselves. For those who say, well, I couldn't tell people that I was Cherokee Indian, well, you can pass for something else. See, I don't have that option. I don't have that option. So don't tell me that you know how it is to be a minority and be black, because you don't. You absolutely do not. Founders Day is not about the date for me, or excuse me, not about Founders Day. It's not even about the month. Founders Day is, because only skin I got in this game is that I am an African American who lives in the city of Ocoee, which I love, which is why I'm sitting up here, but I can't change my look. I can't. So I have to make a decision that is tough. That is a very tough decision, because whatever decision I make, whatever decision the rest of this commission makes, we have to live with that. We have to deal with our family, our friends, our colleagues, our visitors, our residents, our taxpayers, our business. We got to deal, because that's what we do. We have been elected up here to make tough decisions. If we're going to sign a proclamation, and in the spirit of that proclamation, we're going to say we're going to give remembrance to this travesty that happened in 1920, then we need to do that. Our word and our signature should matter. And if we're saying that it's not going to matter, then let us know that too. But only thing I'm saying is, I like Founders Day. I like going to Founders Day. Everyone up here who saw me at Founders Day probably saw me trying to two-step, but I'm not very good because I got a bad knee. But I'm going to go and enjoy myself. However, I'm not going to let anybody, and I got people in my family who try to tell me that we should leave the past in the past, because your forefathers are who caused you to be in a better position than my forefathers allowed me to be. We're still trying, it's 2020 and we're still having the same conversation about race. Why do you think that is? There's a reason for that. It's not because because trust me, I do very well for myself. I don't need to talk about race. But yet I find myself talking about race all the time. And I'm a stand-up guy. I'm upright when I walk. I don't walk bent over. Ain't nobody riding me my back. They know who I am when I'm coming. In fact, my reputation is, before I get there, my reputation gets there, because I'm a stand-up guy. The only thing I'm asking is, let's do what we say that we're going to do, and if we're not going to do it, let's not say we're going to. In the spirit and in the letter of whatever we decide up here.
Did you read it, Commissioner?
Absolutely.
Well, then you read what it says at the bottom.
I did.
Okay, well then it says we're doing what we're supposed to in the right way. Commissioner, you can read it any way you want, but it says right there, if you do it on November 6th and 7th, you have to recognize the July thing, and we do that. So don't say that proclamation is not right. I don't want to get into and the Cherokees. Listen, if you want to get into who got mistreated, all Indians have been mistreated, so let's don't get into all that. Let's just get into settling this. All right? Let's get into settling what we come here for. It ain't got nothing to do with my life. I was raised on a poor farm. What's that got to do with it? let's get to the thing. Commissioners have voted on this already. Commissioner Wilson, you got a comment?
As I read this, when it says that November 2nd shall be declared a day of remembrance for the residents of Ocoee in West Orange County who lost their lives and property through the act of domestic terror, and that any future public cultural events held by the city during the first week of November shall acknowledge the terrible events of Ocoee 1920. No, I'm a little, I want to clarify what Commissioner Oliver's motion is, because if that's, I'm confused, because if November 2nd is the remembrance, date of remembrance, and HRDV has been working on this for years regarding the remembrance, which they're doing October 31st, November 1st, doesn't say that November 2nd is not another day of remembrance. But again, I believe just what you're saying, we're mixing apples and oranges. It's Founder's Day, whatever you want to call it, Music Days, has been going on in Ocoee. And I hate to say it, but I mean, I don't know, I'm seeing just, it bothers me to see all that's happening between folks. They're getting very angry over things that we have a day of remembrance. January 20th, we're going to remember Martin Luther King. Okay, November 2nd will be our day of remembrance that we have for the tragedy that happened in Ocoee. And I don't think any of us are ignoring that. We know it happened. We've read, Myra Kinney's here, we've read her book. Many have read her book. Lester Dabbs, there's so much, there's an item on the agenda tonight, number 14, I think, which is regarding the cemetery. I don't think we're ignoring any of it, but I just can't understand where we're having this problem, because I think that the Day of Remembrance, I'm supporting HRDV and what they're doing. I think that we as residents have to support HRDV. This is one of our boards. They're spending a lot of time on this. And I feel as though we can do the remembrance and also remember during Founder's Day the events, just as this proclamation says. We can remember and educate the community who doesn't know about it. I mean, Founder's Day is a great time to educate folks, as we heard folks say that they went and visited the table that had the information on it. You know, I'll just say, I know there's something that was sent to me that I was told, that someone said I was racist. That is so far from the truth, anyone who knows me. And I don't feel a decision we make will be based on race. I think it's based on education, educating our community, spending time of remembrance of what happened in Ocoee, that we're acknowledging what happened in Ocoee. No one is saying we're not acknowledging. This happened. This was horrible. I don't care if it was unincorporated or incorporated. It happened in this area. West Orange County, Orlando should be sad that this happened. It happened in Orlando, carried out here. It's a sad situation. Never should have happened. Yes, we weren't living here at the time. We have families that were living here at the time. It's a terrible thing to have that in your memory of your family. But I don't see why we can't use Founder's Day as a tool to educate. How many people come to Founder's Day? To educate those folks that come to Founder's Day on what happened in Ocoee and what happened in their community. West Orange County, Orlando, that's an opportunity to think that we can use. So I don't think I can support the motion as it's stated at this point, because I think we can use both weekends as a tool to honor the memory of our community.
Commissioner First, you're the only one that hasn't spoken.
Yeah, and I'm not going to reiterate everything that was said. I agree with what Commissioner Wilson just said. It was a tragedy, but if you look at your history, during that time in America's history, this was happening all over the country. And not saying that that's right, it's a tragedy across America. We're recognizing that, and we're realizing that we need to reconcile. Founder's Day and the massacre, I can't see where they have anything to do with each other at all. They're being held in the same month, toward the beginning of the month. They're not stepping on each other in any fashion. If they were, I'd be the first one to say that we need to separate that, and I think the commission would agree. But I think this argument doesn't have any value as far as one affecting the other and one being disrespectful to the other. I don't see that. That's all.
All right, before we vote, just real quick, how many of you would think in Orange County, Osceola County, and Seminole County, how many diversity boards are there? There's only one. And guess where it's at? It's in Ocoee, Florida. So all your work, you need to go out and preach to those other counties, folks, because their diversity is here working, trying to work. It's been working for years. Like I said, since Lester Dabbs came into town years ago, and almost got run out of town, but he made it. So go look around. This town has been doing it for years before we got this way. We've had people been on that diversity board for years working to get to where Chairman Crown and ex-Chairman Maxwell have got them to. So this, it does, you read what you want to read, but to me, the lawyer, I asked him, it says exactly what we're doing. Legally, it says what we're doing is right. We're not trying to do anything. I moved it back where it wouldn't be on the second. I'd rather had it on the second, but because of the dates trying to get entertainment, but I didn't do it. So it's not against anybody. It's just we're gonna vote again. We voted before, and it keeps coming to the diversity board the same way, and they keep telling them, we don't want to hear it anymore. We've done this. We're not doing it. So let's vote. Motion's on the board. Got a second. Let's vote. All in favor of Commissioner Oliver's motion, vote. If you oppose, vote too. So let's vote.
Let it go. I mean, I don't.
All right, you've got three. We got the votes. All right, motion failed. All right, we're gonna take a 5-minute
Hold on,
recess.
hold on. Before we finish, I do want to say one thing. We have, as you have seen, we have exercised the First Amendment right. Everyone in here that spoke has exercised their First Amendment right. We have seen the democratic process, and the process has went through, and we went through a vote. The vote came up 3-2, so we see that. So everyone had a right to speak. We came together in this process.
Yeah.
No one went on any rants and raves or anything like that. I think that this was I think this was a great process, and it's okay. But I think that as we move forward, we should move forward together as a community, as one community. In the spirit of that, I also want to say that we should also be instruments of love, peace, and hope amongst each other. Now, everyone knows that the mayor and I don't always see eye to eye up here. We don't, and that's just it. But in the interest of our city and moving forward, I think that we can move forward in this manner and do something great for not only Founders Day, but the memory of the Ocoee massacre as well as that as well. So with that being said, I say we
shook hands on it.
We shook hands again. This is what we did.
We haven't moved
I would,
forward yet.
once again, I want to thank the citizens. It's a pleasure, even when we get bad comments or good comments.
Only here.
And I will tell you, from sitting up here a long time, there's a lot of nights, there might be 1 or 2 residents that sit here and come to the commission meeting. So we appreciate your time and effort to come out. And thanks once again. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Now we got to start our regular meeting. So if you want to stay late, stick around.
Yeah. Stick around, don't
Thank
leave
you.
now. Now the good stuff comes.
All right, we're back in session. We're going to start with the, I think we've had enough public comments, so we're going to move on to the consent agendas. All right, any more comments on the consent agenda, or do we hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Commissioner Ferser to approve the consent agenda, seconded by Commissioner Oliver. Any more comments? If not, let's vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, start with number 7, public hearing, request for variance, Rotondo property, 101 East Orlando Avenue. This first one?
No.
You read it?
No, he's got a presentation.
Manager Gate? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission.
Introduce
Gadgetar,
yourself.
Zoning Manager.
All right.
The item in front of you tonight is a request for a variance at 101 East Orlando Avenue. The property is located to the south of Ocoee Elementary School and Orlando Avenue, east of South Lakewood Avenue, directly off of Orlando and Lakewood. The lot is part of a lot split and deeded right of way. It's surrounded by zoning of R1A to the south, R1AA to the west, and R1AAA to the east of it. As you can see, Ocoee Elementary to the north. And on the property itself, there's currently a single-family residence. So part of the proposed lot split is that the variance would need to be approved. Part of that agreement is the owner is going to deed 25-foot right-of-way to the city. So if you look to the left, this would be, the strip right here would be part of the deeded right-of-way. This would actually complete a part of the right-of-way to the south. This is the only section that is not currently part of the right-of-way. As you can see down here, this is already part of the right-of-way. Up here is not just yet. The variance request would be for this lot parcel down here. So what's being requested? The minimum lot width for R1 AAA zoning is 1,000 square foot minimum lot size and an 85-foot minimum lot width. The proposed lot is going to be at 18,000, close to 19,000 square feet in lot size, so it far exceeds the minimum lot size. However, the lot width would be 79.65 feet, which is just shy of the 5.31 minimum 85 feet. So the variance being requested is to reduce the lot width to 79.69 feet. The approval of a variance would be consistent with the surrounding single-family dwellings. As I mentioned, the R1A, R1AA, and R1AAA surrounds that. The variance approval would also allow 2 additional homes to be built once the lot split is approved. The Development Review Committee met and voted unanimously to recommend approval for the variance, and staff also agrees with the recommendation of approving the variance. The applicant is also here as well, and he may like to speak a little bit.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, staff, and members of the citizens. I'm Scott Banta, 97 Hickory Tree Road, Longwood, Florida, here representing Angelo and Donna Rotundo. I'd like to give you just a little bit of background and history on this because it's really kind of interesting, and many times I think the activities of staff and the actions of staff aren't necessarily shown to the board. In this case, Mr. Roomer and I sat down about 2 years ago to look at doing this lot split. And during that time, we figured out that the Lakewood Avenue right-of-way was short. It was only 30 feet instead of 50 feet. So our lot Mr. Rotundo's lot was 164 feet deep. So we came up with the idea of dedicating some right-of-way. And then Mr. Roomer also mentioned that the south lot was owned by Orange County. That's that long, skinny lot. It's about 33 feet by 840 feet. And that was taken over by Orange County from a tax deed forfeiture. So in order to get us almost to the point of having enough width for the 3 lots, we went ahead and I bought the tax certificate from Orange County, then we forced the tax deed sale, and then we ultimately acquired title for that 33 feet through the tax deeds process. So that gave us enough room. The reason the first lot is 101 feet is in order to make the side setback for the existing house, and that is now owned by Mr. Rotundo's nephew. The middle lot is suggested by staff to go to 85 feet, which is compliant with the existing zoning, and that Mr. Rotundo is going to build a home on that lot for his son. That leaves us the third lot of 79.69 feet, which is 5.31 feet short. However, the lots directly across the street are 75 feet, each one of those lots. So we feel that this is a good thing. So I just wanted to just kind of mention that this was really good cooperation with staff, good teamwork, and then persistence over the past 2 years to get to this point where we created, so that in essence, there's 5 pieces of property with a dedication of the right-of-way to make Lakewood compliant with your normal 50-footer right-of-way, and then getting rid of the kind of the eyesore property on the south side that Orange County wasn't maintaining very well. So we appreciate the work of staff, and we respectfully request that you approve this variance request. Thank you so much for letting us speak.
Thank you. All right. You got to read anything? No. We need to open a public hearing. We're going to open it to the public. Anybody in the public have any comments on item number 7, request for variance, Rotondo property? All right, no comments. I'll close it, bring it back to the podium here. Anybody have any comments?
I'll make the motion.
Motion?
Motion to approve?
Yeah. You make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve
All
this.
right, Commissioner Wilson makes a motion. We approve the request for the variance. I hear a second.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Oliver. All right, any more comments? All right, if not, let's vote. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
We thank you very much, too.
All right, item number 8, first reading of ordinance. First reading of ordinance for Comfort Inn, Mainstay Suites, 11401 West Colonial Drive, annexation and rezoning.
This is an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Ocoee, Florida, certain real property containing approximately 1.21 acres located on the north side of Colonial Drive, south and east side of Marshall Farms Road, and west of McGuire Road, pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner. Finding said annexation to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, the Ocoee City Code, providing for and authorizing the updating of official city maps, providing direction to the city clerk, providing for severability, repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for an effective date. And the rezoning ordinance is an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, changing the zoning classification for parcel 192228 000000007 from Orange County C2 General Commercial to City of Ocoee C2 Community Commercial on certain real property containing approximately 1.21 acres located on the north side of Colonial Drive, south and east side of Marshall Farms Road, and west of McGuire Road, pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner. Finding such zoning to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, providing for and authorizing the revision of official city zoning map, repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
All right, this will be brought back on for the second reading and public hearing on January the 21st, 2020.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I've got 2 more. This is 2 separate parcels. We've got an annexation ordinance and a rezoning ordinance.
All right.
For the second parcel. First is the annexation ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Ocoee, Florida, certain real property containing approximately 1.17 acres located on the north side of Colonial Drive, south and east side of Marshall Farms Road, and west of McGuire Road, pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner. Finding said annexation to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, the Ocoee City Code, providing for and authorizing the updating of official city maps, providing direction to the city clerk, providing for severability, repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for an effective date. And then the rezoning ordinance for the second parcel, an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, changing the zoning classification for parcel 1922 2800000008 from Orange County A1 Rural Agricultural to City of Ocoee C2 Community Commercial on certain real property containing 1.17 acres located on the north side of Colonial Drive, south and east side of Marshall Farms Road, and east of McGuire Road, pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner. Finding such zoning to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, providing for and authorizing the revision of the official city zoning map, repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
That it?
That's it.
All right, this will be brought back January the 21st for the second reading and public hearing. All right. Moving on over to item number 9, first reading of ordinance for amendment to the capital improvements element for fiscal year 2019, 2020 through 2023 and 24 capital improvements program.
This is an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, amending the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan as adopted in 1991 as amended in order to comply with Section 163.3177 Florida statutes, amending the capital improvements element of the comprehensive plan, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
You get any more?
Not on that one.
All right. Well, this will be second reading and public hearing also January the 21st, 2020. All right. Second reading of ordinance is public hearing. Number 10, second reading of ordinance amended and restated in full the City of Ocoee Municipal General Employees Retirement Trust Fund. Municipal Pension Board Chair Cowan. You not coming up? You will.
Let me go ahead and read the title to this ordinance. And if you want a staff report, she can give you a staff report, maybe. An ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida relating to the City of Ocoee Municipal General Employees Retirement Trust Fund adopted by ordinance number 2009-20 as subsequently amended, amending Section 1 definitions by amending the definition of credited service and spouse, amending Section 2 membership, amending Section 14 maximum pension, amending Section 16 miscellaneous provisions, amending Section 24 reemployment after retirement, amending Section 25 deferred retirement option plan, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. That is it. That's it for 10.
10. All right. This, I'm gonna open the public hearing for the second reading of ordinance amended and restating in full the City of Ocoee Municipal General Employees Retirement Trust Fund. Anybody in the public have any comments? No comments? We'll close it, come back to the podium. Do I hear a motion?
A motion?
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson. Here's a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Brinson, I think. Did you say?
We're in stereo.
Huh?
Stereo.
Yeah, stereo. All right. Let's vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, let's move to number 11. Second reading of ordinance amending the City of Ocoee Municipal Police Officers and Firefighters Retirement Trust Fund reflecting Internal Revenue Code. Changes and CBA revisions from previous years.
This is an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida relating to the City of Ocoee Municipal Police Officers and Firefighters Retirement Trust Fund, amending ordinance number 2010-19 as subsequently amended, amending Section 1 definitions by amending the definition of credited service, amending Section 7 pre-retirement death, amending Section 8 disability, amending Section 9 vesting, amending Section 15 maximum pension, amending Section 17 miscellaneous provisions, amending Section 27 deferred retirement option plan, amending Section 28 reemployment after retirement, amending Section 30 supplemental benefit component for special benefits, Chapters 175 and 185 share accounts, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, open the public hearing. Anybody have any comments on item number 11? Second reading of ordinance submitted the City of Ocoee Municipal Police Officers and Firefighters Retirement Trust Fund reflecting Internal Revenue Code changes and CBA revisions from previous years. No comments. All right, close it, bring it back to the podium. Anybody make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Wilson makes the motion for number 11. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Stereo again. I'll go Commissioner Oliver. All right, no more comments, let's vote. Motion carries unanimously. I will say, Chairman Cal, you did a great job. Tell Charlie Brown he wasn't here. He got a demerit. Great job. Were you handling it for him also? He's sick. Oh, he's sick? Oh, okay. Thanks for coming out. Sorry about the wait. All right, number 12, regular agenda, approval of development agreement for Lake Lily Center, FKA West End Professional Park. Development Service Director Ruber.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is an attempt to help foster and a significant link in the community redevelopment agency within the city of Ocoee that links Target Area 1, Target Area 2, Target Area 3, in our downtown. It's property on the south side of Old Winter Garden Road. It has a previously approved subdivision plan under the I-1 light industrial zoning. This agreement fosters, discusses, initiates opportunities for mixed-use development, multi-use development, puts prospective developers on notice that it's in the CRA, there is opportunities for incentives. It provides for updates to some conditions of approval, which we will also include in the final draft that is signed by both parties. And staff has been working on this with the Heller Groves family for a number of months, with the city manager's office, our ex-city attorney, Paul Rosenthal, and some new members of the Heller team. Enjoyed working with them and entertain any questions you have. Staff recommends approval. Thank you.
All right. This we don't need to make open public hearing. Anybody up here have any comments on item 12? Anybody? Y'all want to say anything, Paul?
None of the votes yes.
Good man.
I learned that over 22 years.
I think so. All right, do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve the development agreement.
This is approval per staff recommendation to finalize.
Per staff recommendation.
Have a few cleanup items to finalize that will.
Second. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner, motion made by Commissioner Firster, seconded by Commissioner Wilson. Before we vote, you need to do something?
Nope.
All right. No more comments, let's vote. Passes unanimously. Paul, did you have a hard time finding your way out here? No?
The car still drives here automatically.
Good job, thank y'all. Sorry about the wait.
Thank you.
Sorry. All right, what do you need to do now? We going to 13?
Yep.
All right, 13, residential sanitation update. Public Works Director Krug.
Mayor, Commission, wanted to give you an update on where we are with our residential solid waste with a quick presentation. Timeline, as you remember, back in August, the Commission elected to expand the commercial franchise to include the residential solid waste, where we're contracting out our current in-house service. We're going to keep the service levels the same, 2 garbage collections per week, 1 yard waste and bulk collection per week, recycle every other week. Our timeline, back then we anticipated a January 6th start date. That was yesterday, it didn't happen. New truck deliveries industry-wide, which is what the transition is predicated on, has been delayed. The new start date, we're looking closer to March 30th. We should have the contract finalized and back to the Commission on the 21st. We've gone back and forth. Our city attorneys have reviewed it. It is currently in the Waste Connections' hands, and they don't have a problem with it. They just wanted to go through every line and make sure they're A-okay before they send it back. I should have that back this week. The big delay, trucks. We have 2 new trucks that were ordered last year. They're being delivered. Part of the contract is the Waste Connections will take over or purchase the 2 new trucks for us because they couldn't get them any quicker than we could. The trucks that are coming in February were originally promised to us in October, then December, January, now we're in February, and the closest date they'll give us is the 2nd week of February. They seem a little more confident than they have been. We'll see what happens. We are creating contracts for the sale of the trucks. We're also looking to reallocate a claw truck that the city purchased to stormwater because we do utilize that quite often in picking up debris from lakes. And then we'll surplus used equipment. This will all come back to the Commission in future agendas under consent items. We're also working on a temporary agreement with Waste Connections in the meantime to take over 2 of our routes, one in Commissioner Firstner's area and one in Commissioner Brinson's area, some of the larger contained subdivisions so that they can get a feel for the routes. We've been meeting every other week with Waste Connections to get things set up. They have assigned a supervisor who we've met to our city, and we have met with him. He's been out yesterday, was following our trucks checking out the routes. So they are getting familiar with it. This will also help us, beginning in February, provide coverage. We have one driver who has accepted a position with the city of Apopka, and his last day was Friday. And we have some of our other drivers who have accepted positions elsewhere in the city, and we want to let them be able to fill those positions so we don't hamper any of the other divisions or departments. So that's where we're at with that. Wondering if you have any questions.
All right, we got one from the public. Let me bring Mr. Atkins.
Chris Atkins, 606 Bridgefield Avenue, here in Ocoee, Florida. I know when this got brought up last time, I did put something on the record. I don't know if you had a chance to look over it, Mr. Krug, or not. But I know that for quite some time now, with the difficulties in the recycling program, the majority of recycling in Orange County and across really the whole state and everywhere is basically going to the landfill. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so when I look at renegotiating or negotiating a contract with an independent contractor, I prefer to leave it in the city, because I think if you work here and live here, you take better care. But since we've made the decision to go with a private contractor, I think on behalf of the tax-paying citizens, I think it would probably be best to eliminate the 2 fake recycling days. I mean, we're sending another truck for basically a third garbage pickup. Maybe, and I'm going to repeat what I had put in the on the record last time. I think it would be nice for our community to have a local spot, because people care about recycling. And I've seen a lot of people be upset that they think they're recycling and it's going to the garbage. So maybe we should have a location set up centrally within the city that people who really care about recycling can do so. Eliminate those 2 days and use the money we'd be paying to take those to the dump to go ahead and potentially pay for that. And then I'd like to see some education in our school system here in the city, within the city, teaching our youth how to recycle properly. Because then maybe one day we can get back to actually getting on a bulk track. But at this point in time, to be honest with you, we're basically paying for 2 additional garbage days, and I think that's in excess. I remember speaking with Rosemary about 18 months ago, and we were having some budget issues. I think that's why we went to the independent contractor, and she was talking about possibly eliminating 1 garbage day. And I told her, you know, that's great to some people, but if you have a family, you know, it's a little bit tough to do it on just 1 garbage day. So I'm glad you guys decided to leave the 2 garbage days. But at the end, like I said, we're just paying for a fake recycling day. I think that we don't need a 3rd garbage day, and I'd like to see us somehow come up with maybe an alternative plan to save some money in that aspect and still offer recycling within the community, if possible. Maybe that could be incorporated in your next update, possibly, if the commission would like to see that. I don't know what their opinion is.
Do whatever the commission requests.
Well,
Comments from Commissioner?
I have a, I think to the best of my recollection, is it the new company that we're going to bring on board has their own recycling program?
Yes.
And they're going to do the recycling themselves to ensure that it gets to the recycling center?
Yes. There are provisions in there that if there's too high of a contamination rate, that they have the option to take it to a landfill. They also have a waste-to-energy plant, so ultimately there is a possibility it won't just go into a landfill, but it could be turned into energy.
What about, Mr. Atkins brought up about having that place for some people that wanted to do it, out at the facility. They could come by and drop them off in.
I'll warn against that unless
I'm asking because he asked.
But I
know you'd have to have somebody when they come in, check them in like they do at places, to make sure they put in the right stuff.
Even when, like, the police did a very altruistic thing, Waste Connections provided a cardboard dumpster for boxes out on a street near the police station. It became a garbage dump. Just people see it, they bring garbage there. If we do that, it'd have to be manned. We do not have the funding for that right now in our sanitation budget.
Yeah, and I think that's where it correlates to what I said in the beginning. If we eliminate the 2, let me back up for a second. The contamination rate has gotten to be so small, like literally 3 Publix bags you take home from the store, and a large load is considered contaminated. So the provision will state that, which basically the research has been done. most of all, and this isn't just Ocoee or Orange County or the state, it's everywhere since the contamination rate has changed, is basically going to the landfill. So I just don't want to pretend to us taxpayers that we're recycling when we say we are, but really the numbers and the facts state that we aren't. I would like to see if we eliminated those days, then it may give you the opportunity to have someone man it. Then you could give out the small containers, because there are a lot of people in the community that do like to recycle, and if we think about the future of our community, we have to try and recycle. That's just my opinion, you know. I mean, you have to kind of be, you know, like under the current contracting budget, no, it won't work. Think about what it costs per stop, and if you eliminated those recycling days, if we could fit something else in there, because we don't need a third trash day. And it's just, you know, clearly I'm just a citizen who looks at what other people tell me, and look at conservation of our environment, and as a city, we should try to do something. If that savings could be there. I mean, it's expensive to stop at my house twice, additional 2 times per month. Every other week they stop by. I just put trash in it now. I mean, I've done, you know, because based upon what you guys have said, the city stopped even attempting that. I remember we were dropping it and having to go back and pick it up if I wasn't mistaken, if I'm not mistaken, is that correct?
Yes.
So it was costing us an absorbent amount of money in our budget to go back and pick it up. That's why we stopped, which makes total sense. I mean, it makes total sense. But it's just an opinion based upon, you know, what I hear in the community, and I'd like to see if you guys could possibly think about it. Would you think about eliminating those 2 days? Do you think that would hurt? Would that gain trash if we eliminated those?
We have looked at that. The model that we asked Waste Connections to perform on, we even brought that up to them if that would save us money. And their business model, because of the fact that they control the stream, the flow of the trash, they have a better chance of making it work. To where people will recycle and not use it as a trash day because they think it's going to landfill. That's part of the education problem. Even people that know better just don't care enough to do it right.
3 bags from Publix, and it is an education problem. It's very clear that it's an education problem. But at the end of the day, changing to a private company isn't going to change the education problem. They're just going to be taking it to the landfill. And I just look at it from a dollar standpoint and a pickup standpoint. So that's just my opinion. I appreciate the time to speak to you guys, though. Thank you.
I have a quick question. So if you're looking at eliminating that third recycling day pickup, and we're obviously talking about how to save money here. Would that save any money as far as, because it costs us to dump. It's a cost to take something to the dump, but it also costs us to pick it up as well. Would there be any way that we can look at, perhaps we can look at it from a different perspective to see if there's any way, if we could eliminate that one pickup and see what would be the cost savings for us, the pickup versus the dumping, or even the manpower and logistics of it all. Would there be any way we can save any money as we move forward in our recycling projects or operations? Sorry.
There could be in the future, as Waste Connections takes over and sees some ways they might be able to streamline the routes and all. Part of our contract, what has taken a little longer to get things, we want it to be a contract that as time goes on, if they find a better way to do something, they can come back to us and we can amend the contract easily in order to save money and improve the efficiency.
Okay. And my last question would be, as a result of privatizing our recycling and our trash, our solid waste trash, I know there was in the presentation back in November, I believe, when you first presented this, and there was a possibility of not being able to cover some jobs. I know you said some are actually waiting on positions. Is there anyone that is not covered as far as employment as a result of this privatization right now?
Not yet. Right now, we have 2 team members that one is not looking for future employment, lives outside in Lake County and is considering not driving anymore. One of our other drivers just hasn't found the right position yet, but we expect that she'll find one.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any more?
When is it projected to start Waste Connections in District 1 there?
We're looking the first week of February. You'll start seeing Waste Connection trucks and crews. And once we get the neighborhood's finalized, I'll be sending an update to the city manager's office, and they'll forward it out to make sure everybody's aware of the exact dates. And
Okay.
I'll be bringing the temporary agreements back on the 21st.
Okay, thank you.
So the only question I had was and you answered that, was the employee retention and other jobs.
City attorney has some more clarification.
I was just going to, the item for discussion and consideration the motion would be to accept the start dates, move out the start dates per the staff recommendation, and authorize entering into the temporary agreements to cover certain city routes. Anything else?
No, question, would we still have to bring back the temporary routes?
Yeah, we don't have that actual agreement
Okay,
in place.
just wanted to make sure.
Authorize
We
city
just
staff
wanted-
to enter into the agreements, or to negotiate the agreements.
All right, I need a motion. Do we need a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I make a motion so stated.
Motion made by Residential Sanitation by Commissioner Brinson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Firstman. Any more comments?
I will vote yes, even though I was the, should I say, negative vote in the previous
Yeah.
vote.
All right,
Does it make any sense?
put that on record, okay?
But I will vote yes to support
Okay.
the commission's decision.
All right, let's vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, down to item 14. Discussion and direction regarding property located at 441 Baskin Ridge. I don't know why earlier tonight I was thinking about that in the wrong place.
Yeah, but it's okay, we had,
I was thinking about that other property. Okay,
you're the right place.
sorry about that, Commissioner. All right. City Attorney.
All right, this is the cemetery property at 441 Basking Ridge Court. The city has been maintaining this property for some time. It's about an acre in size. City has made some improvements to the property and has had discussions about making additional improvements. The city does not own the property, but in preserving the historical significance of the property has undertaken to maintain it. We've tried to contact the owners, the listed owners of the property, to see if they would donate the property or otherwise convey, sell the property to the city, but we have not had a response from the owners. The next step in the city's acquisition of the property, if the city wants to acquire it, would be to have the city's eminent domain attorney institute an action for eminent domain. We believe the total cost to the city to acquire the property would be somewhere in the range of $15,000 to $20,000. That would include the legal fees, mostly the legal fees in doing the eminent domain action. So really up to the commission. If that's the commission's desire, we would have the city's eminent domain attorney look into acquiring it as a taking.
Any discussion from commissioners?
A question.
Okay, question.
What was the mechanisms used to contact the listed owners of that property, as well as how long did we wait before we decided to get to this point, before we heard nothing?
Yeah, it's probably, we started this process, I'm guessing, 5 or 6 months ago, trying to reach the owners. The first addresses that we were listed on the property appraiser records, those came back as undeliverable. We then contacted the owners based on the address in the vesting deed for the property, and those did not come back undeliverable. We believe they were delivered, but we got no response from the owners.
Okay.
I have a question. Can we continue to make improvements to this property without actually owning it?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the interesting, I've kind of taken the position, Commissioner, that we're at no real risk in doing it. It's really just mowing it. The actual signage and improvements are really in the right-of-way in front of it. So the sign in front of the property is actually in the right-of-way, so we can continue to maintain that. It's really just mowing it. However, if we're going to do additional improvements to it, put a gazebo on it or park bench or make it more of an active area, then I think it's probably best that the city acquire it. I think it's a bad idea to make significant improvements to
Without
someone else's
owning it.
property. So I think the best course of action would be to acquire it if we're going to make additional
Okay,
improvements.
thank you.
Just for anyone's information, it's off of Lakewood Avenue before you get close to the numbered streets that are unincorporated towards Worst Road. It's we were looking at the map on this, and you have to kind of jog
It's
through.
in the middle of a subdivision.
It's in the middle of a neighborhood, yes,
Yeah,
so you have to kind of
backside.
jog through to get to it. So just so folks know that where the location of Basking Ridge is.
Okay, anybody else, any more comments? All right, let's start with Commissioner Brinson. Okay, comments by Commissioner Oliver.
I have no comments on this matter. I think that it will be, we've maintained this property for a while, and I think that the city has done all of its due diligence to take us to this point. So I would have to agree with the city attorney. I think it would be beneficial to the city to just own the property.
Anybody else have any comments?
I think we've been maintaining it. I think we need to follow this through and
Yeah.
take care of it. Is the money, do we have contingency? Is
We
that where it's
got-
going to come
Matter of fact, I
from?
just got rid of that. Hold
You
on.
got rid of the contingency?
Contingency is $30,875.
Is it something that we need to budget in the next, but I'm just questioning
We could, yeah.
because of $30,000 and we're not even 3 months into the year. That's a concern I have, that is $30,000.
Well, we took out a big one on the youth council. We already, we had to do that.
find funds to do that.
We're okay? Okay.
All right, so we figured out that one, they come up with the,
Mid-year.
do we need to vote on that?
Yeah.
All right, we need to vote on the purchasing that.
Make the motion to,
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson, do I hear a second?
A second.
Second by Commissioner Oliver. Any more discussion? All right, let's vote. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, no more of those. Start with Commissioner Oliver. I started with Commissioner Benson.
Okay. I have one item that I would need to get a consensus from the commission. We're looking to grant approval to move forward with the mailing of the citywide transportation improvements. This is one thing we brought forth before the city last March that would actually laid out a plan that identifies every district in the city and identifies the infrastructure plans for the city. And I'm actually asking for a consensus that will allow the staff to move forward with the mailing of these citywide transportation improvements.
I'd like to-
already?
No, it's not. That's just a mock-up. It's already set, ready to go. That was actually created by the city planner as well as our CRA manager.
what's the cost?
You know the cost? Well, we discussed it and said we were going to do it. I just don't know I don't know. If anybody got the cost?
The cost to mail it
Micro-
to every citizen, is that?
Well, that's what we said it.
Question, we're trying to get it citywide. I think that there's a couple ways it could be done. We could actually do it in some of the areas that need it the most, or we can send it out citywide. It's just a matter of the staff figuring out the best way to get this information out to the public.
I think we need a cost thing, but I'd like to send it to all the districts.
Well, I think originally doing a full color was going to be about $4,000 for one district. So if we cut it back to two color or something like that, there's some options that we could bring the cost down.
I like the cost.
Can we do it in the water bill? Would that be cheaper?
We can look at doing it in the water bill. It would definitely be much cheaper to do that. We might have to streamline it a little bit.
Can you get a cost on, I like this.
I like your cost on it, because it was 4,000 a district, that's, 4 times 4 is 16, am I right? My numbers?
Yeah.
$16,000.
We can get a bid on it. See.
If it can go in the water bill, that would be more cost effective.
Well, one of the things that I believe that we talked about last year with this is looking at every door direct mail through the U.S. Post Office, which actually will cut that down probably more than half. And that actually would be able to get out to every citizen. It's a service that the post office offers at a very reduced rate. So instead of having a person's name, it just says resident.
And it used to be the post office, anything political, they'll put it under they'll ship it with the regular delivery on the first, same delivery as the rest of it. If it comes in under political, they send them out. If you send out campaign stuff, they'll send it out on regular delivery.
I'd like to see the cost of it. I'd like to see some cost comparisons, because $16,000, if it's not budgeted, we're talking, contingency's gone for the year, which means nothing's going to be.
You could authorize this up to an amount, and we can look at that direct mail system and doing that. I will also add that because of all the discussions, and the county commissioners and county mayor have been having public meetings about the 1 cent sales tax, it would not be a bad idea to educate our citizens on needed road improvements, because many of those are not funded. Some of them are. So that's another thing to consider, and that's going to become a hotter topic in coming months as they get nearer. I believe they're planning to take it for a vote in February to the county commission, so whether to put that on the ballot. So that's just another thing to think about. But you could authorize up to a dollar amount, and if we can get it done within that, then we could go ahead and get moving with it, or we'd have to bring it back. That's one option you have.
The $16,000 is a real problem with me, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's something go on the water bill, or, you know, a trifold, and go out, something would, to me,
Try the water bill, try the bulk rate method.
Maybe you can just come back with a recommendation
Sorry?
after you look at it for the next commission
You're
meeting.
okay for
well, every door,
Yeah, that'll
every
be
door
fine,
direct,
yeah.
he said.
We can bring that back with 2 or 3 good options for how to minimize the cost of that.
I think it's a good thing to send out to everybody.
That's very good.
A lot of people's asking questions. While we're asking questions, is Steve Krug leave? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, you finish.
Oh, no, I'm done. I'm done. That's all I had.
What about you, Mr. First?
This is the announcements. I only have one announcement. There's going to be a hazardous waste and electronics collection on Saturday, January 25th. The only thing is that it's going to be at Freedom High School, which is at 2500 West Taft, Vineland. If you don't want to go out all the way there and it's not an emergency for you, you can wait until March. It'll be a collection center set up on Story Road at the Orange County Service Center.
Okay. Did Steve come in, or he gone? Does anybody know the answer to when is that construction going to be finished at Blueford? I mean,
It was Christmas, it was.
supposed to be 6 weeks.
You're right.
Huh?
They're supposed to be striping next week, so within the next week or so.
Also, and I started this a long time ago, so I know Commissioner Brinson wants to know too. What about the intersection at the red light at Fuller's Crossroad? It's been over a year now. We got all the approvals done, and we still haven't started anything. I hate to do that to you, but.
That's okay. My seat's growing warmer by the second. I actually anticipated this coming up and spoke with our Public Works Director today earlier about it, and there's been several delays. As you know, we have awarded the work to Ulrich Construction, who did Blueford. VHB Engineering was hired jointly between the city and the county to design it, and the guaranteed maximum price, because of the process of procurement we're using, came back too high. So there's been an effort to re-engineer some of the items to bring the cost down without affecting the technical specifications of the improvements needed to effectively benefit that intersection. Additionally, they ran into a longer permitting process for some of the permits than they had originally anticipated. There's supposed to be a meeting next week to try to finalize the guaranteed maximum price. And I don't have a specific date. I would say within the next month, we will get mobilized and get that job going. I share in the frustration and have made it very clear. And I assure you that the message has been delivered all the way down the chain to the consultants. And I expect them, I'm planning to personally sit in on the meeting to impress upon them the desire of the commission to move this thing forward expeditiously.
All right. Commissioner Wilson.
I hope you can try with DOT and the baffle box on Hawthorne for me to get, that's been going on for a couple of years now. So when you said 1 year, I think I got you beat by a couple of years with DOT and a baffle box on Hawthorne. I have one question, which I guess I'll direct to you, Craig, because, sorry, over the holidays, I don't know if anyone was going down Clark Road, but I believe my daughter and I at one point counted up to 30 lights that were out. And it wasn't getting corrected. And I realize we're dealing with Duke Energy because we have pigtails that are going into these ornaments. I realize there's always a lot of issues, but our residents are paying for these for the holiday season. And when you go down, I'm just going to use Clark Road because that's the one that I travel mostly, is that when half of them are out. I mean, it was over 30. I know that we kind of stopped at 30. And it's sad. And I think that we need to, if we're going to continue to pay the money we're paying for these ornaments, and honestly, I know I'm not the walking budget book, but I know it wasn't just a couple dollars.
Right.
But we need to make some changes. We need to either decide that we want to go a different direction. Those ornaments are looking kind of antiquated. Am I wrong? Anyone agree with me? Maybe not. But the sad part mostly is that they are out, and we're paying for them. And this year, they're up for about 4 weeks, and yeah. So, and I know there's other parts of the city they were out also.
I hate to say this, but I'll say it. That some of it's probably not the ornament's fault because I don't think our poles, some of them, they don't check them and make sure the power system's working on them, and that's our fault. We don't have a person who goes around verifying poles because these people come out, our guys just put them up on the pole and go on. But I don't think some of the poles, the power's working on them, and that's one of the reasons they don't work. So.
But if we're going to do this, we need to make sure that they are operational. I mean, we start now. Sorry, you want to say something?
No, I just want to share, I anticipated this might come up. I noticed there were quite a few out on Worst Road before the holidays, and the discussion was had, and we are going to do two things. One, we are going to have a program in place to go out and test some of those. The mayor was actually correct. There are a lot of the poles that the service the service to the actual plug is not working correctly, and that's one of the reasons. So if we're going to do that, the message has been delivered that we need to actually program the time to go out and check the areas that we're going to be putting them up. We agree completely, and unfortunately, when by the time you go put them up, you don't have time to go check them all and get them fixed. So you're absolutely right. That will be addressed, and that's something, as far as the antiquated nature of some of the ornaments, that's something that you all could consider doing something with as part of the budget process. There's companies that actually lease them, so you can pick new things every year. We had purchased some a few years ago when this came up before, but there needs to be a little bit more thought put into it, and that's being addressed. We're aware of that, and I appreciate you bringing that up. We're happy to report back on that to you as far as how we're going to implement that, but they're going to be checked.
Okay. Just two things that the Shred event is planned for March 14th. It's the Shred Protect event that is sponsored through the Ocoee Police Department with 3 of our local clubs, the Ocoee Rotary Club, the Ocoee Women's Club, and the Ocoee Lions Club. And they'll be held at the police department on March 14th, so start saving all of your documents that you would like to your sensitive documents that you would like to have shredded. That will be available to us in the morning hours, and you'll be seeing flyers regarding that. And the Spring Fling is being planned March 28th, always a fun time. It's a great event, free event for anyone who comes. It's a family-focused event, so mark your calendar. It's going to be from 10 to 2. And if you've come before, I think everyone who comes enjoys it and learns something. So, thank you.
Mr. Briss.
All right. First of all, I want to thank all the residents and the citizens of Orange County for coming out to our spirited debate this evening. I really do appreciate it. And I really love to see, I'm sure everyone else up here on the dais, was to have more people come out and have the gallery filled like that every time we come together. So that's the first thing. The next thing is I want to make sure that we're doing something that we should be doing always, and that is locking our car doors. That is something that's so very important. I'm seeing and hearing from residents a lot that their cars are being broken into, but actually the car doors are not being broken into. The car doors are just being opened because they're being left unlocked. So I'd encourage all the citizens, residents, visitors, and likewise to lock your car doors. And with that said, if you see something, say something. It is a good program. If you see something, say something. Also, be mindful of where you're parking. Please, residents, citizens, visitors, travelers, business owners on the streets. Just because it's a street doesn't mean that it's legal to park there. We are going to start having some enforcement going in various parts of the city to ensure that parking is being done properly and legally. So I would encourage you to also be mindful of that. And this is something that I'm sure the assistant and deputy city manager has anticipated, and that is not just the intersection at Fuller's Cross and Ocoee, but also the land that's there, and what is going on with the land.
You mean the one on the right?
As you're going south on Ocoee, the property on the left.
Are you talking about the Chevron property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Specifically, what's going on in Chevron is there is an approved preliminary site plan to do a traditional neighborhood design project. And if Mike, is Mike out there? Come on down. Mike and I worked together on updating Commissioner Brinson earlier. I think it's KB Homes that has a contract out there. The next thing they would have to do is come in for a final site plan. The question had come up about the contamination that was out there, and upon review of the files, they actually have documentation and review that the contamination levels did not reach a threshold that would require federal or state regulation, and they're able to proceed forward with the development of the property. Mike can answer, any specific questions about that. As far as the timeline, I don't know if KB has given you any indication as to when they might submit a final site plan or.
Yes or no, they have not. They have asked a question about some lot sizes with townhomes and that are within the approved subdivision plan. From my history, I was always under the understanding is on a sale of land, there was an understanding that there was some remediation time to be done at such time before the subdivision or at the same time the subdivision breaks ground. And they know those contaminated areas where the water spigots were at the orange groves. So it would they would do the remediation, and they could also do some of the subdivision improvements as part of that process. I haven't worked with KB Homes yet within the city of Ocoee, so I don't know how their due diligence period goes, as I am familiar with some other builders. But that's what I know at this time. They did reach out right after Christmas on some of the lot layouts, lot sizes. So they're still in the game, as best I know.
And I would remind you that the final site plan that KB would be submitting, including the remediation work that would be required as part of any permit they have, would be required to come before the city commission for authorization.
Right, and of course, and I bring this up, not just because it wasn't on the agenda, it was actually just in comments from the commissioners, but also because I know that there's some things that's going to be coming out of the ground in that area. But of course, I'm going back to what I, believe in is infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. If we're going to be building more residences in that area, that means there's going to be more traffic on that two-lane road. So I encourage you to be mindful of that in your negotiations with KB or whomever else may be developers that's bringing structures out of the ground.
Yes, and I will say that the subdivision has previous approvals for preliminary. In order to vest the property for the number of new single-family homes coming out, they number one, they paid a mitigation fee of $250,000, which we're using towards the intersection improvements at Fuller's Crossroad and Ocoee Popka. Number two, they dedicated the right-of-way along their property line in order to facilitate those turn lanes were foreseen. They were ideally they would have been constructed years ago. So, and they've also mitigated through the school board. So that subdivision, the number of housing units are vested. The types of trips going in there, the turn lanes, that's all approved in the plan. We have the right of way. We're building some of the turn lanes ahead of time using the money from the mitigation. So, thank you.
Okay. All right, real quick, just a reminder, the MLK parade is Monday, January the 20th, from 10 a.m. to 12, starting at Citrus Elementary School and ending at the West Oak Smallwood Post Parade celebration and keynote speaker. I think, what time did they tell us to be at the?
9.
9 at the mall. Okay. The other thing is you talking about parking. I know up on the houses, when you turn left on Orlando Avenue, the second house or the third house, they have 4 or 5 parked in the front yard. And one of them's got a trailer on the back. Well, I mean, I know we got an ordinance against that.
Where are we talking? Tell me, clarify for me.
Not past Mr. Braylon's house, the next house, on the right-hand side.
Turning
Right before you
east
get to
on Orlando.
Lakewood, yeah, on Orlando Avenue. I know it's tough, they got a garage, but if they had the garage open, I looked in the garage and, whew, they ain't gonna park they won't park a bicycle in that garage. It looks like a business is running out of, I hate, I know people have tough times, but that's a dangerous road to come out of there, so maybe we ought to look into that. There was one other thing, but I again thank everybody for coming out tonight. I appreciate all the commissioners, their comments. I think things will get down to working for the city, betterment of the city we all want to do, and work towards that process. I will say that in your area, I don't know whether the neighbors hadn't called you about that dollar store going in.
Since you brought it up, yes, they have more than talked with me about it. But
I didn't mean to bring up.
Well, it is something that that's an issue, but right at this point,
they turned it to the side.
Well, that's.
Mike, you want to say something?
I don't know what to say about that.
It's a hot topic.
Yeah.
It's the property was originally zoned for office. And we made a change to allow like a little mixed-use community, residential and commercial in the front. It has the ability to do commercial retail. The Dollar General falls under general retail. The only provision we made with the 4 single-family lots, or 4 commercial lots, is we saw a need for a gas station in the area. So we allowed one of the lots to be a gas station convenience, but we limited the amount of fueling positions and prohibited a drive-through car wash to get that little residential community gas station. There's 2 of them on South McGuire that kind of operate that way. So there can be a gas station on one of those lots. There's 3 of them are being built, so there's 1 left. Don't know if one will come in or not. So that was the other question is is there a gas station going in there? One can, we limited the amount of fueling positions in a car wash. So.
How can we limit fueling positions but not at all?
Because to define a retail establishment by a business name is not allowed. It's tough to even, we looked at in the past of limiting fast food restaurants. And so you could say, well, you need to have a receipt of $15 or more. And then, or you got to have food delivered to your table. Well, now McDonald's delivers, you get the number and set it on your table, they deliver to your table. It's a never ending, there's not a solution to limit those discount retail stores because they're general retail.
It's also limited. I will tell you that, and I know, Mr. Renson, I know you probably thought of that, but the lighting situation is what's going to be a problem. Because those houses are built right up to that wall.
Yeah.
Well, there's the lighting, the photometric plan for the subdivision, the lights were already put in the rear, that rear access. It's a community design to be integrated with the commercial. It's not a, hey, I bought the residential, what's going to be on the other side of the wall? I don't know. It's a PD, they were known. Those lights are already in place. Our code doesn't allow more than one candle power spillage over onto the residential side. Doesn't mean much to you, but it meets that. That's a general lighting standard in residential communities. It meets the standard.
Well, always nice talking to you,
I'm
Director.
going to bring something really great to you guys one day. So.
Sorry to bring that up.
You'll let me lead the Christmas parade.
Always a pleasure.
Oh, well then, that might be,
Causing me physical pain.
January the 21st. Hope everybody had a great New Year's and happy holidays. See you January the 21st.
You're here.
Adjourned.
Don't leave the mayor did that to me.
Yeah, I'm going to be calling you about them lights. I'm going to be calling you about them lights, I can tell you.